E3 2021 is on, but what's it gonna look like? Some familiar faces are returning to Star Trek. And Cyborg actor Ray Fisher escalates from cryptic tweets to a full interview. All that and the latest at Everything Cool today in The Rundown. Hey, welcome to The Rundown, everybody. We have got some fun things to talk about today. We have got some old returning favorites in this episode, which is going to be a lot of fun to discuss. First of all, though, we're going to dedicate this rundown to Sam I Am 111, who was first in the room. He says, "I'm here." Very nondescript, very to the point, as he always is. Very shrewd and smart person, that Sam I Am 111. Let's get started with Sam I Am 111's rundown. We had some questions about whether E3 was going to be back, but today we got the official announcement. We knew that it was percolating and that it was coming together, but we didn't quite know how it was all going to shape up. And today we heard from the ESA that yes, in fact, E3 is coming back, and it is going to include a bunch of companies that, have been a little tenuous. We didn't know for sure, first of all, if this show was going to deliver anything close to what it has been in the past, but there's been so many companies that have dropped out. But Xbox and Nintendo, two key pillars of E3, have both confirmed that they're going to be a part of E3. We also know that, several other publishers are going to be involved as well, and ESA is promising that a lot of other partners are going to be coming on board. And what's cool about it is that E3 is going to be a free event for everyone, and there's going to be some co-streaming possibilities and opportunities for people. And I saw that Phil Spencer from Xbox was talking about not only what's going on with E3 this year, but of course Jeff Keighley's got his Summer Game Fest as well, and he is really championing this, that's a tough word to get in there. He's really behind this idea of everybody in the industry kind of coming together and I guess playing together, right? And that's what I've always loved about E3. I've been to every single E3, going right back to the original in 1995. This is some footage from the very first E3, I think, here, or this might have been the Atlanta one. But E3 started in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Convention Center, and we've always had a great time going to the physical event. But of course, things have been changing a lot in the video game industry. A lot of different events out there have sort of come up to address the sort of general public wanting to go and get some hands-on time with video games. And there's that, which is awesome. I mean, it's fun to go to PAX, and I know that Gamescom in Europe is, a massive event as well, which is open to the public. I've been to the Tokyo Game Show and had a really good time there. But there is something incredibly special about E3. Obviously, we've made a lot of friends and connections. I met Tommy Tallarico at the very first E3. So it's a special event, and the pandemic really threw it for a loop. But even at the beginning of the year last year, there were questions about what E3 was going to be. PlayStation has dropped out, and PlayStation, and they dropped out a few years ago at this point, and PlayStation has been such an important ingredient at E3. This is some footage from the PlayStation booth right here. This is Tommy talking to Jason Rubin about the early days of Crash Bandicoot. And it was really kind of heart-wrenching to see that companies like, PlayStation had decided to take their promotion elsewhere. We saw that with EA, even Xbox, as much as they have, an element and participate in E3. A lot of it has really not been done on the show floor. They kind of took a lot of their stuff over to the Xbox Theater, which I guess makes sense. But more and more we started to see people gravitate away from E3. And, part of, I think, this decision, obviously, is the expense of putting on these big booths and trying to bring everybody in there and trying to out-glitz and out-glam everybody else that has games to show off. And I get that. And also, just the smart tactics that Nintendo has really shown off with their Nintendo Directs, I think really influenced other companies across the industry saying, well, we can just kind of put video content together out there and get our message across in a much more contained way, because obviously we and several other media outlets out there have lots of embarrassing footage from different press conferences that have taken place over the years. But all that being said, I still believe that it's incredibly important to kind of in North America, bring the entire business and bring the entire media, industry that is interested in video games, and also now all of the enthusiasts and all of the influencers and the streamers and the players out there, congregate them all in one space. Now, this can't happen this year. It can't happen this year. It's got to be a digital thing. But I still think that can be incredibly exciting, especially if the content is really well paced and there's, news hit after news hit and reveal after reveal. And there's a little bit of, everybody kind of sharing the space and sharing the stage and throwing to each other. It's kumbaya and it's a little idealistic, but that's what I saw through my eyes. When I first started going to E3, sure, there was a competitive spirit and a streak out there, and you saw different developers from different companies walking into each other's booths and maybe doing a little bit of spying and a little sort of trying to eavesdrop on conversations and figure out what one group was doing over here, and maybe there was some spying that was happening that went back into products later on. Who knows? But what I saw from my vantage point was that the entire industry was getting along and working together and trying to create awareness for this kind of shared creativity that existed in this medium. And I'll tell you something, I used to fly into Los Angeles every year for E3. Went to Atlanta for a couple of years, and those were very fun shows as well, but it really felt at home in the heart of Los Angeles and downtown LA. And I would fly in every year, and we would get into a taxi cab, remember taxis? And I would say to the cab driver, yeah, we're here for E3. Or I would tell, people as we were crossing, actually we would cross the border here in Vancouver, but I would come into the airport and I would tell people that we are in town to go to E3. And there was an awareness of what E3 was and why it was important to Los Angeles. And that has shifted over time. I noticed the last several events that I went to, the live events, and I guess it was E3 2019 was the last one that I went to, which was the 25th one. I would tell people that I'm in town for E3, and people would have no idea what the heck I was talking about. And that was kind of, well, I was sad. It was sad for me because I had seen this escalation and this kind of appreciation for video games as a, culturally important and significant art form grow and grow and grow. And the city of Los Angeles embraced it. You'd see advertising everywhere. You'd come into the city. It was a video game city. And it didn't matter if you were going to the event at downtown and staying in Santa Monica or in Hollywood or whatever. All over the city, people knew what was going on. And I think we've kind of moved away from that. So it's up to the ESA, which makes half of its yearly budget from E3. And I don't know how they're going to monetize this because it's free. It's free to everybody. Everybody can attend. And I'm going to figure out what my, coverage plans will be. I'll probably be doing a ton of live streaming when E3 happens. And it's going to be June 12th through the 15th, and you can see that Warner Brothers and Koch Media and Take-Two Interactive and Ubisoft and Konami, some of the kind of stalwarts, the regular players, they have all agreed to be a part of this. So I'm excited that it's on, but like a lot of folks, I'm a little bit skeptical about how they're going to put this together, but I really do hope that it's phenomenal, and I hope that you will all join me on the journey to cover E3 2021, which I guess is because they didn't have anything last year, right? They just had to outright cancel it. We were in the middle of this uncharted territory. So it's weird. Yeah, we just had we had our blip year in real life, didn't we? We had a blip year in reality. Insane. So this, I guess, will be the 26th E3 this year, and it's going to be weird, but that's okay. Video games can be weird. But I'm looking forward to what the surprises are going to be and the reveals are going to be, and hopefully one of the nice surprises is that PlayStation says, yeah, we're going to come back and we're going to have some kind of an event there. It just doesn't feel, I said this in a video that I put together, I think at the beginning of 2020, when everything seemed like it was going to be cool. I said an E3 without PlayStation is like a pizza without cheese. It just doesn't feel right. So hopefully the ESA can figure that out and PlayStation will be there. But you know what? That isn't the only old friend that is returning. We got some big reveals yesterday at Star Trek First Contact Day. one of the big reveals is that Discovery Season 4 has been in production, and we're going to be getting the new show this year. I am fully caught up on Star Trek Discovery. I've really been enjoying the show. I know a lot of diehard Star Trek people are not big fans of some of the tangents and directions and some of the swearing and some of the violence that's a part of this less than beatific Star Trek universe. But I don't know, I got captivated by the characters and the vantage point and some of the time travel elements. And it's, you know, obviously picking up. We've got Michael Burnham is in the captain's seat, and she's got the whole love and respect of her crew behind her. But what we have seen in this show is that every episode is just filled with unbelievably heightened drama, and it always feels like everybody is going to die, but somehow they squeak through. But I don't know, I had this addictive pull getting caught up with it, and I think that the actors in the show are really tremendous, and I think it's also a beautiful looking show, so very much looking forward to that. And there was also a panel, several panels throughout the day, but Q was revealed in this discussion with Will Wheaton and Patrick Stewart. John Delancey, who played Q in Star Trek The Next Generation, is coming back in the new season of Picard, which is also teased in the little trailer that the Star Trek folks tweeted out there. And we get a little look at Picard. And Picard, you know, I kind of dropped out of Picard. I thought it got a little bit too crazy. Like they were trying to be, I don't know, there was something just, it didn't feel right to me. But now, you know, Q is coming back, and I did have a good time getting caught up on Star Trek Discovery. I want to go back and finish Star Trek Picard, so I'm ready for, you know, this new season and try to figure out how they're going to get out of the maze that they kind of put themselves into. You know, and I know it's a controversial, it's some controversial choices on where they put Picard at the end of all of this. But there's some fun content. You can check out all of the panels and stuff on the Paramount Plus YouTube channel, but you know, lots and lots of interviews and little reveals, like the animated stuff. There's the Prodigy show that's coming with Captain Janeway is revealed in animated form. You know, obviously Star Trek is an incredibly important property to Paramount, and they're going to be putting it all over Paramount Plus. But I also know that Star Trek means different things to different people, and it's quite a bit different today than it is with Star Trek Next Generation. And I have to say, I've watched several episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. I think I've watched 90% of the movies. I've watched a bunch of the old series. But I'm certainly not as diehard in the Star Trek universe as I am in the Star Wars universe. And you know, even though Discovery isn't quite, and I see this, I have lots of Trek fanatics on my friends lists and my social circles, and I see the anger and the rage that they have for Picard and Lower Decks and for Discovery. But my experience was pretty damn good. I'm also looking forward to the new Captain Pike show, because I think Anson Mount just killed it as Pike in Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, which I think did evoke a lot of the old classic kind of vibe. So I want to see what the new Star Trek series that is focused on Pike and the new Spock is all about. But yeah, lots more Star Trek coming. It's an incredibly important franchise, and I know I have a lot of catching up to do. And because I did enjoy Discovery, that's my intention. I'm going to keep diving deeper into Star Trek lore and get all caught up. All right, there is some slightly troubling news out there in the world of the Snyder Cut. It's been percolating for a long time, but some big revelations happened today. Ray Fisher actually has a pretty in-depth interview with The Hollywood Reporter, and this has been breaking out all across the internet right now. He's really come out and talked a lot about how he felt very wronged by principals at Warner Brothers and creative heads on the Justice League film, specifically Joss Whedon, who he doesn't pull any punches against. He feels that Joss Whedon was very arrogant and treated him very poorly, and was very dismissive of any of the feedback that he had around his character as Victor Stone. It's a troubling read, and it is especially so for me because not only have I met and interviewed Joss Whedon several times, we've bumped into him on the floor at Comic-Con, put him on camera, and he was totally gracious and cool, and I've had, separate sit-downs with him. But I'm also a big fan of a lot of his work, but obviously a lot of stuff has come to the forefront over the last year that lots of people that have worked with him have had really awful experiences. And it's so disappointing to see, especially as someone that just adored Firefly. I dug Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love the first 2 Avengers movies that he directed. It's really disheartening to see. And I really applaud Ray Fisher for having the strength of character to kind of buck the system and stand up for what he really believes is right. And there's some really interesting quotes in here. I'll read you one right now. This one's from Chris Tario, who was a co-writer on the Justice League film. Zach and I always considered Cyborg's story to be the heart of the movie. He has the most pronounced character arc of any of the heroes, beginning from a place of despair and ending with a feeling that he is whole and that he is loved. And he also says, with a white writer and white director, we both thought that having a perspective of an actor of color was really important, and Ray is really good with story and character, so he became a partner in creating Victor, which is amazing. And, it kind of speaks to the disappointment that I have around Joss Whedon, because it feels like he had this whole relationship with creative elements on Justice League. Talking about Ray Fisher here, and then we all know what happened with Zack Snyder being, he had to leave the movie because of a family tragedy, and Joss Whedon kind of took over. He was kind of punching up the script, and then Warner Brothers kind of worked him in so that he was going to be directing, but Whedon was not listening to Ray Fisher, at least from the vantage point and the perspective that we have based on interviews and tweets that he's put out there. Ray Fisher, I'm talking about. And that's just, awful. I think it's just terrible, because clearly this guy was chosen for a reason. And now if you've seen the Snyder Cut, he, I think, is the best thing in the movie. Like, there's lots of really cool new elements in there and some better tweaks on stakes, and just the whole story plays better than the original film, which I didn't hate, by the way, but the Snyder Cut is much better. But the best thing in the movie is that Cyborg has real sustenance, real weight, like he has... he is the arc. It's his origin, and it's wonderfully done, and Fisher is fantastic in it. And I also was really disappointed to hear about Jeff Johns as well, who, again, I've interviewed several times. He's been on EP a lot, and it's different when you're interviewing people about their work and they're in the creative field, and they are nothing but gracious and happy to have that opportunity to talk about what they're working on. And he says that Jeff Johns found it problematic that Cyborg only smiled twice in the movie, and apparently Jeff Johns and other executives said that they couldn't have an angry black man at the center of the film, which is just incredibly tone-deaf, talking about a character that has lost his family and is, really grafted to this tragedy. He comes back as kind of like a Frankenstein's monster, and of course there's going to be a whole range of dark emotions attached to the Victor Stone character, as there was in the Teen Titans origin and always around Cyborg. But anyways, it's a great article. You should definitely read it. I'm so disappointed in what's coming to light around Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns. And Walter Hamada, who, is trying to create a relationship with Jeff Johns, continue to curate this relationship with Jeff Johns, who still is attached as a producer with lots of stuff out there. And I don't know the details on all of this stuff, and I don't really want to get into gossipy BS around it. I don't want to proclaim, that one person is awful, and, I don't want to get into the fight of it. But what I do feel is that Ray Fisher delivered. He's an excellent Cyborg. He really stood up against, with like superstars, with Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot, who was still kind of defining her character, but she was, all of these actors had lots and lots of experience, and here was a guy that was kind of new into this realm, playing a character that we had never seen on screen before, and doing such a good job with it. And Zack Snyder clearly having the attention to detail and the love and the care to make this character really stand out and stand up with these other megawatt superheroes that we're all way more familiar with. And that was a heavy task, right? They had to kind of explain who Cyborg was, and they did a good job, especially, well, only in the Snyder Cut. And I just feel like Warner Brothers should really take the higher ground. I feel like the executives at Warner Brothers should make this right and work with Ray Fisher to figure it out. It's, you know, they are in the power seat, and Ray Fisher is unhappy. He should be heard. He should, you know, have an opportunity to work this out. It would be good for Warner Brothers. It would be good for fans of DC heroes. It would be good for fans of the Zack Snyder Cut, which there are millions of people out there now. I'm one of them. It would be the road back to gaining the confidence that a lot of people don't have around DC films and projects right now. And I don't know why they aren't doing that. You know, they have the ability to make a lot of people happy. And honestly, based on all of this information and based on the success of the Snyder Cut, which frankly, I thought it was all super heavy dramatic for a long time, but it converted a lot of people, and Zack Snyder delivered. You know, it took this really ridiculous road to get to this picture getting out there, but it was actually good. It was pretty freaking cool. It was too much, but it was pretty freaking cool. And it's not as good as the Marvel stuff, but it came from a vision. It came from a place where there was like tangible love. And what was interesting is that we'd been around this story of these heroes for so long, and we'd known about these characters and these actors for so long attached to these roles, that all of the work that went into kind of making Justice League a movie back in 2017, which didn't work because we didn't know the character. All of that had been supplemented by this point, and so the Snyder Cut comes out, and it does feel like it delivers on all of these layers of effort along the way. And Cyborg is an important ingredient. So, yeah, I think Warner Brothers should take the high road, be big about this, and work this out. And bring Ray Fisher in and figure it out. It shouldn't be up to Ray Fisher to figure it out. The guy is he's in his 30s. He's in his early 30s. He's starting his career. He seems genuine, you know? It feels like, why would he make up all of this stuff to sabotage his career? Why would he? It just doesn't feel, whatever the reasons are, whatever. Warner Brothers has the power to make this right. I think that they should. And I also think, based on the success of the Snyder Cut, the Snyderverse should go forward. I don't know why the hell they wouldn't want to do that. It feels like money on the table that they're just saying, nah, you know, and whatever the egotistical reasons are, figure it out. People want it, make it. You know, what have you got to lose, especially with this multiverse kind of idea that you're putting together? So yes, figure it out with Ray Fisher, make good with him. Let's turn this ridiculously dire, awful story around, and, you know, hopefully changes start to happen out of this stuff, so people don't feel that their voice can't be heard, or that they're being marginalized, or their characters are being stripped out because of whatever. You know, it's so ugly, you know, with what should be just a totally triumphant, beautiful tale. Especially because this was his breakout thing, and he delivered. He's good, you know. But anyway, I mean, he's right. It's accountability above entertainment. That's his whole trademark. But I've been impressed with the way that he has persevered through all of this madness, you know. And god damn, am I disappointed in Joss Whedon. I honestly, like, that guy needs to find a way to be a better human being to people. That's what he's got to do. Who cares about his creative output? He's just got to be a better human being to people. He's got a lot of apologizing and making up to do. All of these folks out there are just angry and, you know, hurt by his actions. He's got a lot to... He's got a lot of work to do. But, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with all this, but I wanted to kind of get into this a little bit. But I encourage you all to kind of dive deep into the Ray Fisher story and read that interview. And dig a bit, you know, if you're fascinated by it as I am. But, you know, honestly, I just hope that it changes the way that respect is that, and the Me Too movement, all of it, man. Like, people just need to treat each other with love and empathy and respect, and good creative decisions will come out of that, and they just will, you know. This abuse kind of reality that exists in Hollywood, or has existed in Hollywood for so long. Watch The Player if you never have seen Robert Altman's movie, which really rips apart the sort of Hollywood ecosystem. And everybody knows what Harvey Weinstein, what kind of a freaking monster that guy was. But that has got to end, and people need to be be treated with more care and love. You know, how do you make art? How does anybody, like, when I talked with Robert Keyes from Screen Rant about visiting the Justice League set, and I just was trying to put myself into, you should watch that, Vic's Basement, if you haven't. I was trying to put myself into the headspace of Zack Snyder, who's got Hollywood, Warner Brothers executives telling him to change everything as he's making the movie. How do you do that? How do you make something when you got people in your ear that aren't living with the project, but they just, no, change this, change, like, I don't know, man. That's some thick skin. But anyways, hopefully some good stuff comes out of it. I do think that Justice League Snyder Cut is like a total redemption arc. That's a wonderful story that somebody will make a movie about 50 years from now. Yeah. I guess I stand with Ray Fisher. All right, I've got one quick thing to tell you about, and that is a new video game that's I just found out about today. It's called Arcade Paradise, and it's an adventure game. Don't know too much about it, but they're really teasing that we're going to be able to craft our own arcade, and it looks like all of these little game bits, they're based on things that we're familiar with. There's some Bomberman and Breakout and Armor Attack, some classic 80s kind of vibe. It looks like we can convert a laundromat into an arcade, and I really hope this is true. I hope this isn't just pre-rendered animation. It's supposed to be an adventure game, but I hope there's kind of like a simulation building everything. This is just like the announcement trailer, so I don't really know too much about it. But you can create your own arcade, and my hope is that every one of those machines is a playable game, and I think that would be really, really cool. It's coming to the Xbox. It's coming out later this year. I'll find out more, but I like this whole setup. It's very much like, you know, you can imagine Flynn from Tron has bought a laundromat, and he pulls up in his arcade truck, and he's going to convert it into a new arcade. It's called Arcade Paradise, coming to the Xbox platforms later on this year. And I hope it's awesome. It looks like it could be a lot of fun. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. I'll be back tomorrow with a fresh episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you especially to our subscribers and to all of our EPN members out there. You guys are amazing. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, play forever.